This is a postscript to my last video. My mother, enlisting me in her never-ending quest to keep withdrawing belongings from her old home where my father now lives, sent me up into the attic while he is away to get some Christmas ornaments and the nativity set. People, you want to have a sobering experience? Go into your parents' attic. All the children with their own little boxes of high school and college mementos. I had my box. There was this note that I should get it. I was like 12 years old and I was bodybuilding. I couldn't get it. It's in this box here. Hold on. There's all kinds of good stuff here. This was a kind of a joke from my college girlfriend with whom I was not actually having sex. Picture of Einstein. When I was in high school, I wrote this book, Deep Questions for Deep People. Warning, this book is for the mentally strong only. I almost got totally exhausted searching through that box. I've got tons of writing from when I was a young person. One of these is when I was 13 and I was bodybuilding. See, that's a picture of my arm. I wanted my delts to look like that. You can see the veins. I'm sitting up in my room and it's 2:45. The Enders are over and so are Heidi and some other chick. They're all swimming. I'd be too, but I gotta rest my muscles because I'm laying off this week. I was skinny as a rail and pumping iron incessantly because I was so shy and embarrassed about it. I haven't grown in 6 weeks. I want so much to get big. I pray for it every day. I just know God will give me good gains. You know, if you pray to God, he'll give you anything. I wanted biceps. I'm listening to Run DMC Beasties. They're rad. I've been running around my room posing. At 3:30, I'm watching Oprah Winfrey with Arnold. I plan to win Mr. Olympia someday. Later. And then I skipped ahead like 8 years to my college journals. And it was a portrait of a douche. I'm not even going to read this because America is in trouble. We are fat. It's like a funny piece, supposedly, and it's talking about families that are overweight and they all look the same, and it's as though they walked off of a Far Side calendar. Why do I bring this up? I remember those days, and then I remember getting out of college and having that same restless, angry, confused male energy. And then I remember going to the monastery. And the question that I put to you at that last video, I stacked the deck to make it seem a bit like that monastic life is too hard. But boy, the things we want to face at a monastery that just haven't worked our whole life, aspects of our character, my stinginess and my cruelty, it requires pretty deep cutting. Yes, monasteries are difficult. Yes, spiritual practice is difficult. Yes, sometimes our peers at the monastery and in our temple, maybe these people make us feel like crud, but it is now truly an open question as to whether or not the Rinzai style practice that we did was too harsh and too difficult, because looking in that box and remembering that guy that I was and not wanting to be that guy, not wanting to be cruel, wanting to be more open, wanting to figure out what I was getting wrong and fix it. I went all in at the monastery. Everybody that was there was all in, and nothing was off limits. Nothing was off limits except like physical violence. In the name of seeking truth and getting to the bottom of ourselves and seeing through the illusion of self, these are really deep things, and the practice runs really, really deep. And on the one hand, it's arguably abusive, the way some of these all-in, old-school, traditional spiritual practices do things. But on the other hand, like, would I want to go to a cozy mindfulness retreat for a weekend and have somebody scratch my back and do my toenails? I mean, is that going to get me anywhere? Am I really going to look at myself? So the question remains open. We're all a mess, folks. That's my conclusion. Every last one of us. Yes, we're all a mess, but looking in these boxes and reading these old diary entries and these old attempts at humor that were often cruel, and then tracing that back to this little almost prepubescent boy who was trying to bodybuild because he was ashamed he was so skinny, putting all that together with my journey to the monastery many years later and all the crapola that we went through and put each other through, my conclusion is you process all that, you look into the mirror, you shrug, and you say, I really can't judge anybody, and I mustn't judge anybody. And I think when you push yourself at a monastery, if you're doing it right, you should come out the other side. Whether it's pushing yourself at a monastery or in a practice, you should come out the other side of it humbled, with a more open heart and a lighter spirit, and like zero judgment of anyone. Compassion should flow forth. So if there's an edge or an attitude in how you deal with your peers in your practice or even yourself, you, you're doing something, you're not quite there yet. I recommend you go to your mother's house or your father's house, go up into the attic, pull out your old diaries, and if you can get through those and afterwards not feel like you need to open your heart to the whole human race because you're just as flawed as them, then you should publish your diaries because I want to read them. Take care, folks.